on this episode of Deep Dive Right-Wing Grifters, we're going to talk about politicians. We're specifically going to cover a couple that drive me absolutely crazy, and then we're going to talk about one that's gone completely off the rails and how she grifts and how she uses it. But let's start with one of the ones that I deem our biggest threat right now, and that would be Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz is not an idiot. Despite how people like to make fun of him and how people like to do this, he's very good at observing the trends on the right and then using them to propel his own image, to propel his own policies, to propel his own grift. He often lies, knows he's lying, and then misrepresents things. Let me give you an example. He's trying right now to push that the reason Texas doesn't have power is the Green New Deal. Except that's not true. And we know that's not true because Texas privatized their infrastructure. And when they privatized their infrastructure, they did so that they wouldn't have to go with federal regulations, which also cut them off from getting electricity from other places, other states, if they need it, given if they're having issues like they're having now. The other thing is the wind turbines that they do have are freezing. But do you know why they're freezing? Because the Texas people that privatized the system wanted to save money, and they didn't get the heaters for the wind turbines. So they're freezing because they don't have the heaters that other Midwestern states who also use wind turbines have, and theirs keep going, even when it's cold. But because that's not a good talking point, that privatizing the system is actually what is putting a ton, and I do mean a ton, millions of Americans without power and the possibility of freezing to death. I mean, 2 literally died from carbon monoxide poisoning in their cars because of this privatized system. And they use the privatized system to make money, but they don't want to have to admit that the privatized system failed. So they instead are intentionally lying to people, saying that it is a Green New Deal and wind turbines and things that they had to do and that they weren't allowed to have coal and all sorts of other stuff. But the honest to God truth is, it's their coal and their gas that's failing. It is their privatized infrastructure that they did not update to meet federal regulations. And the fact that when they didn't do that, they lost their ability to pull from other states. Now millions of people don't have power. But again, they can't have that narrative going through. So they're trying to, Ted Cruz and many other Republicans are trying to push through this narrative that it is a Green New Deal. The problem with that is it's a bold-faced lie. And how do we know it's a bold-faced lie? It's an easy one. The Green New Deal was never passed. Policies have never been implemented. It simply doesn't exist. They're playing off of their fears of socialism that they've pushed to cover up their own mistake. And it's not the only time Ted Cruz has done something like this. Ted Cruz has intentionally misrepresented things to make himself look better. He knew that this election was a lie. That the election, the big lie, the fraud, that whole thing where Donald Trump was like, I won, when he didn't. He knew that the votes were real. Do you want to know how he knew? Because all the other congressmen that were on the same freaking ticket were sworn in. All of the lower ones that took over this, the states that were sworn in on the states, they were on the same ticket. And he didn't fight those. He only fought the presidential election because Donald Trump was fighting it, and it looked good to the base because he wants to run in 2024. He then proceeded to spout this lie all over the place, hoping to cause the insurrection on January 6th. And even after he caused the insurrection, he was very, very concerned that if he went against it, it would hurt his image. So he still went through and tried to contest, knowing full well that it wouldn't work. He is a lawyer. He understands constitutional law. I'm not the best with constitutional laws. I'm not a lawyer, but I do talk to constitutional lawyers when I get a chance here and there. And they explained to me very clearly how that process was going to work, and I knew months in advance that there was absolutely zero way to overturn that. I knew from the moment the election was certified that it was over. He knew the same thing because he knew that even if you contested it, you had to have the House and the Senate both vote. He knew that. He knew his resolution would fail, yet he did it anyway after an insurrection to gain clout with his political people. He was literally making them believe one thing so that he could get their vote and their political donations. Lindsey Graham is another person that had done this. Mitch McConnell is the next one we are going to cover. He is one of the biggest grifters on the right that I've ever seen, and he is dangerous. Deathly dangerous. He gets people killed. Dangerous. Mitch McConnell understood the filibuster. Not only did he understand the filibuster, he understood the power of having the majority. And he knew that if he could simply block bills and convince the American people that it was all the Democrats' fault, that Republicans would love to help you, but the nasty little Democrats just won't let you, he can constantly maintain power. And his biggest goal has always been to keep as many bills off the floor as possible. And he then turns the chaos and the failing economy and everything else, he turns that into money, into campaign donations from big corporations that need him to lobby for something they want, like tax breaks. He uses it to then lobby for little people to give him small donations so that he can stop the big scary Democrats, even though they're not the ones that are blocking the bills. They're not the ones that are keeping you from getting basic healthcare needs or food stamps, which most red states heavily rely on. But he decided when Barack Obama was president to make his bones by trying to block as many bills as possible in the Senate. And then when he gained control of the Senate, it was no longer about blocking bills. He relishes on the fact that he's called the Grim Reaper because bills don't go through, which keeps his senators from having to vote on anything controversial. And that within itself is a grift. It is a grift to raise money. It is a grift to keep power. It is a grift to make you, it's a shell game. It makes you look over here while they're secretly stuffing their pockets over there. Then you have the Marjorie Taylor Greens of this entire grifty political system, who I guarantee you she knows QAnon is fake. Like, I guarantee you she absolutely knows QAnon is fake. But she used QAnon to propel her into a powerful seat that will make her more money. And now that she is there, she's willing to dance that line where she will denounce certain parts of QAnon while speaking out of the other side of her mouth because she knows her base will go for it. She absolutely 100% knows that her base will believe that there is a Democratic cabal of a word I cannot say and keep my monetization that's eating babies. She took that conspiracy theory, that grift, and used it to propel herself into the House of Representatives. She uses it to raise money. She's using it to just ingratiate herself with some of the nastiest people. She's also responsible for the Stop the Steal and the Big Lie. She still perpetuates the Big Lie, which gets her, again, small donations from the crazies. And the people that are so far down the rabbit hole that they don't understand what she's spewing is lies, even though she knows it's lies. She 100% knows what she's spewing is a giant lie. And they use people's fear of conspiracy theories and things like that to gain power. That's all they care about. Power. Power gets money. Money gets power. It's a giant circle. And that's all they care about. At the end of the day, the right-wing politicians that grift do it off of lies, fear, and manipulation. And I will see y'all later.